Good morning, scholars. So I think now I can call you all scholars. Earlier we used to say participants, audience. So now at the end of 2 days, beginning of the third day, all of us have become scholars. So much information we know which others did not have the privilege to know in the beginning of their PhD journey. So very happy for you guys. On this happy note, let us start the third day. I can see that many of you have got some printouts in your hand, comparing answers, discussing answers. All these are very good signals that you are sending us, that you are learning so much. And we have our resource person, bang on time. So 9:30, the session starts today. So sir's session today will be about publishing research articles. As all of you know, according to the regulations, we have one research article that you need to publish. But please remember that the number of articles you publish during this period will speak volumes about your research throughout your career. So even today, when I say that during my PhD I published these papers, so that carries a lot of weightage. So don't think that I will work only one paper and that paper will be the sanctum sanctorum of my PhD career. No. Okay? Publish a lot of papers. So for that, sir will take you through. He has prepared a roadmap for you, a plan, a blueprint. So please make notes. Please ask questions, be interactive, and wish you all the best for the last day of the session.
Articles in peer-reviewed journals. Publishing is very, very important. Okay, it is not only the question of meeting the requirement of a university that I have to publish at least 1 or 2 papers in Scopus journals or UGC indexed journals. The purpose of publishing is dissemination of knowledge. You are doing a research program, you are making many findings, so it is the moral responsibility of every researcher to disseminate the knowledge that they have gained, the understanding they got from their work, to communicate to the scientific community. Because your report is more valuable. Your remark on a particular work, whether certain things will improve or not, to improve means to what extent it can improve certain properties. Say for example, if you are trying to improve the chemical stability of a material, if you are trying to improve a mechanical strength of a material, okay, you are doing a particular program, you are approaching, you are following a particular methodology. By following this methodology, I can able to improve the mechanical properties to this extent. That will be, you will be reporting. But that data is very much valuable for so many people, particularly in the industry. Okay, so if they adopt the particular methodology, they can able to get only this much improvement, whether that is enough for their application. So they will decide on that. So each and every data, irrespective of, you may be making only a delta X improvement. You may see that I have made only just a delta X improvement. So I don't think it is significant. For you it may not be significant, but for me it is significant. Because I will be looking for an answer, I will be looking for a material, I will be looking for a methodology that can improve the properties. So dissemination of knowledge is very important part, and that is the purpose of publishing. Okay. Of course, other materialistic benefits are there, and your PhD requirements are, so that and all is different. But the first important thing is dissemination of knowledge. So that's why we are going for publication. Okay. So before going into the presentation, I would like to put a small disclaimer. Okay, this presentation is intended to provide an overview of how to prepare manuscript for publications. This will highlight some of the possible pathways to accomplish the goals. Okay. This is only a guideline. Okay. It might help you to write better, but I cannot guarantee you that you will emerge as a good writer from tomorrow. It all depends on you, how much you involve in the practice of writing. Okay, that is the only way that you can improvise while learning. Just by listening a presentation of how to prepare a manuscript, you cannot prepare a manuscript. This is only a guideline. Okay, what I'm giving is a guideline. Okay. Always we do Google search. Immediately you put manuscript writing. Imagine that, the number of hits. So what it means, if you just go through all this answer, web pages, you can able to write better. Can you able to do it in 3 years' time? This many results. It's not possible. Okay. So that much field is important. Manuscript writing is that much important. What are the signposts across the roadmap of publishing a research paper? As I already said, reading is the basic. Without reading, we cannot write. So you have to necessarily read. Whether you like it or not, you have to read every day, you have to write every day. And not only reading, you have to highlight some of the important points. I've already highlighted those aspects of that. And during reading, you should be able to observe the points. You should be able to imbibe. You should be able to digest. You should be able to grasp. You should be able to comprehend the information. That is very important. It is not simply a passive reading. It should be an active reading. Okay. And classify the points. I already explained to you in the last session, how to classify the points depending on the areas. And then you need to correlate, because some researchers have reported a particular aspect of that. You need to correlate how different researchers are reporting. Okay, say for example, let us say that a particular method of synthesis of nanomaterials. And people have done that, okay, by using this particular methodology, I'm able to get the size of the nanoparticle in this range. Somebody might have reported some other range. So you compare and correlate what is the particle size depending upon the methodology that they adopt. So those aspects, you need to be able to correlate those points. Again, reading is alone is one time is not enough. You have to keep read again. And again, you have to populate the mind with all the points that you are doing it. And again, you have to write the first draft. There should not be any inhibition in writing the first draft. Whatever coming to your mind, you have random thoughts. Whatever coming to your mind, you keep writing. There is no limitation. Don't try to look for perfection during the first draft. Whatever coming to your mind, keep writing. Even 100 pages you write. Then we can refine it. Revise. Revision is very, very important. First draft is maybe random thoughts. The points may not be in coherent way. So you have to revise and make it as a good manuscript. And choose the journal, appropriate journal, and prepare the manuscript according to the author instructions given in the website, journal website, and submit to the journal, mostly in online. So these are the signposts across the roadmap of publishing. It looks like very simple steps of climbing up the ladder. But it is actually like playing a snake and ladder game. You will never know when you will come down. At what step you will get stuck. Okay. What are the various categories of contribution? Most thing that we do as a researcher, we publish research papers. Okay, whatever the research finding that we are making in the laboratory, we will be publishing it in a journal. There are of course other forms like letters, short communication, and rapid communication. What is a short communication, can you tell? From the word, short communication. Anybody done? You can tell. What do you mean by short communication? What is coming to your mind? It need not be a correct answer. What is coming to your mind? No, I'm asking short communication. What do you mean by short communication? Sorry? It's not a simpler way. It's not abstract. It's a paper, it's a full paper.
Technical, that's limitation of the...
Actually, no, okay, fine. So many people confuse that, short communication is a short form of a full paper. It is not. It is not. Okay, short communication and rapid communication are meant to report some important new findings. Okay, it may take more time for you to complete the entire study. But the key aspect of the finding, that you can report it as a short communication. Okay. It is not that, okay, I will do only XRD and SEM and I will publish it as a paper, and then further application study I will do it, and then again I will publish another paper. It is not like that. So that is not meant for short communication. Short communication means some key findings that you want to report. Then only short communication is applicable. It is not a short form of a full paper. That we should remember. Okay. Review paper is very, very important. When you are starting your research, I am advising you to read a lot of review papers, because review papers give an overall idea about the field. Okay, mostly it will be written by experts, and it's a good compilation of the already published literature. So it will give a clear idea about where to start your work and how you can refine your work, how to modify your existing work plan, all those things. You will get a very good idea about review papers. I already said in the earlier session that review paper, as a researcher, for a good practice, you start writing a research paper, because you will be forced to read. When you want to write a review paper, you have to read a lot of papers, because you have to compile everything. So that is a good exercise that you will be doing reading all the papers. So it's a good thing. But review papers written by experts now can be able to give opinion, expert opinion, where the field should go. All those things, it is very difficult for a researcher to start with. But you have to practice of writing a review paper, because you need to know what is going on in the field. Okay, and to identify the gaps also. A lot of articles are perspectives, opinions, and commentary about a particular development. You can able to give a commentary whether it is good or bad, all those things. Clinical trials, particularly in biological area, a lot of drug discovery and opinions about, say for example, in COVID-19 cases, what is the thing? So people have given that one report that they can be asked to inhale nitrous oxide, because nitrous oxide could be able to help these things. So that is, so they conducted a clinical trial and published the findings. It's a clinical trial. So technical note you can publish, a small development, very small development. I have read one technical note, a person has developed a stand for a pH electrode. You might have seen pH meters. Okay, pH meter, there will be a glass electrode and there will be a stand. Always it is not, it is flimsy and you are likely to break the electrode very frequently. It has happened in many laboratories. So that researcher, what they did is, instead of using the conventional electrode stand supplied by the company, they have modified the design of the electrode holder. It is only electrode holder she modified, but that they have published as a technical note. So any useful, simple development that you are making in your laboratory, that you can publish as a technical note. Of course, case studies, medical history, there are a lot of case studies. Data in brief is now coming up, because data is valuable. Okay, data science is picking up. That the data science, artificial intelligence, deep learning, all these things, machine learning, everything is picking up a lot. So for that, everybody needs data. So whatever the data that you are generating in the laboratory are very useful. Okay, that there are many journals, they are coming out with publishing only the data. Publishing only the data. You need not provide any evidence, SEM evidence or transmission electron microscope evidence. There is no need. You can publish only the data in brief, because data is invaluable. But data should be reproducible, data should be meaningful. Then only we can able to get meaningful understanding from the data, and we can able to apply it somewhere. Okay. And there are video journals are available. Suppose you are doing an experiment in your laboratory, you can take a video of that and publish it as a video article. Instead of writing it, you can give a background voice about and explain it, what is the concept behind that experiment, and you can take a video and then you can publish it in one of the journals called Journal of Visual Experimentation, JOVE, Journal of Visual Experimentation. So you can see that. And a lot of videos are there. So you can publish it as a video also, not necessarily to write it in the form of a manuscript. Of course, there are published books are there. You can read the book and you can write a review. So that is also one of the scientific contribution that you can able to make it. So these are the various categories of scientific contributions. First, let us look at the research paper aspects, because most of us have to write research papers. This is the structure of a research paper. Basically, it contains a title, author's name and affiliation, abstract, keywords, introduction, materials and methods, results and discussion, conclusions, acknowledgements, references, conflict of interest, and supplementary information. So these are the various categories or various the structure of a research paper. Title. We always feel, what is in a title? Now if you see movies, how the people are giving a title, particularly okay.
I'm doing an experiment in one of the specifically and specially designed FRP tank.
Okay.
It is a double walled, and we were trying to make air as the barrier for the heat transfer.
Okay.
We did a lot of calculations, we did a lot of design changes, then we came out with the tank. And we successfully have done the experiments also. The graphs also have come nice to me. And I don't know what the world says, but the graphs have come nice. But however, sir, a moment ago you told that JOVE.
Yes.
Because I have taken a number of videos of that,
yeah.
And I have also explained myself. If I post that video there,
yes.
I wanted it to register in IP, intellectual property, as a patent. Once it is, the graphs are okay, the paper will be published in any case. But however, the paper is still in the preparation area, where if I publish those videos, there will not be a conflict of...
Yeah, definitely there will be a conflict of interest, because it is better to file an IPR and get that IPR or a patent, and then you can explain briefly about the development, not in depth, just about the highlights, the thing. Then you can publish it actually. After IPR or patent, then you can do it.
JOVE, sir?
JOVE, Journal of Visual Experimentation.
Okay, but first the paper.
First patent or IPR, first you have to get it.
Okay.
Otherwise you are putting it to open, then you cannot claim the royalty.
Parallelly, if I do also a research paper,
Yeah, definitely you can do that, yes.
if I first publish my research paper, then
No, within a year you have to file. Within a year you have to file a patent or IPR, within a year.
Okay.
If it goes out, generally if you publish it, it is open. So you can't claim the royalty that it is my work and my idea. If anybody can start doing it, actually. Even your patent also, it's valid for only a short period of
Yes.
time, 5 years. So after that you cannot have a rights to claim.
Sir, there is again a question, sir. I am actually doing this experiment in one of the industry. The industry is not mine. The property.
The right belongs to the industry. The right belongs to the industry, not the individual. You can be an inventor. You can be an inventor or copyright holder for the particular development. But the assignee patent, say for example, if a student files a patent from Anna University, Anna University is the assignee. The student will become the inventor. The student will be named, student and the supervisor will name as inventors. But the patent is assigned to Anna University, and any royalty will go to the Anna University. And Anna University has to give a part, maybe 40%. Generally it is 60% for the institution and 40% for the investors, if a technology is sold based on the patent.
Correct, sir. I wanted to bring it as a business model, as a business tool. Then there becomes a conflict of interest between...
Yeah, definitely there will be a conflict of interest will be there. So you have to look for and then carefully do that. Yeah, sure, let's carry on. So many of you feel that, the title, you might have seen the movies, particularly the dubbing movies from Telugu and other things. So they coin beautiful words, in the title. So research article is also similar, okay, need to attract. Basically it should be clear, concise and self-explanatory and attract the reader, that is more important. And it should reflect about the work, what is about it. We can give an idea about the application area. And if we have improved any particular property, say for example, improved the mechanical strength or improved the chemical stability or thermal stability, that you can mention in that title. And we should not use any abbreviations or trademarks in the title. Okay. Basically, reader should get a good idea about the work. Okay. Some interesting titles are there. So there is an article written by the associate editors of ACS Applied Nanomaterials. You can read this paper. It's they mentioned about manuscript titles and how to capture the readers to enhance citations. Okay, because the reader has to read the paper, then only he can cite, he or she can cite the paper. So it is very important that you need to coin the title very nicely so that it attracts the readers. So some of the excerpts I want to put it from this paper. They say a good title highlights the manuscript's focus, novelty. It should be short and to the point. Okay. What is the focus of the manuscript? That should be in the title. What is the novelty in the paper? That should be in the title. It should be very short and to the point. That is very important. Two essential features. Say for example, if you are working on nanomaterials. Okay. What is the type of nanomaterial studies and what is the targeted application? That should be, that two words should be there in the title. Other things are superfluous. Okay. Papers with in general, short titles get more citation than the longer titles. So make it as short as sweet. Okay. Use of controlled drug delivery is misleading. Why they are telling like that? People are always looking at and aiming at to achieve controlled drug delivery. But we are only aiming at, we could not still able to achieve that. Okay. So usage of the word controlled drug delivery is always misleading. Because whenever you load a drug in a material and try to find out the drug release profile, it is always a burst release. It is very difficult to achieve a sustained release of the drug. And that is a problem. That is why they say don't use the word controlled release in your title, because that will be misleading, because there is no such thing as controlled drug release. You can able to limit the rate, but still most of the drugs, about 90% of the drugs is released within 24 hours. So that is not a controlled release aspect. That's what they say about it. Say for example, some of the titles they are given, for example, inkjet printing of silver nanowires for stretchable heaters. So this is the title of the manuscript. They are given what is the type of nanomaterial they use as silver nanowires. Okay. And how they are going to do this method as inkjet printing, they follow the methodology, and for application area for stretchable heaters. So what is the material, what is the methodology, and what is the type of application? This is the thing that should be titled. There is no need a study of or the development of silver nanowires for such and there is no need. Don't make it as a big title, make it as a short title. Okay. Similarly, amine borane or ammonium borane nanospheres for hydrogen storage. Okay, what is the application area and what is the type of nanomaterial they are using it. Another example, interpenetrating nanofibrous composite membranes water purification. So what is the material? It's a composite membrane and developed by interpenetrating network formation and for water purification applications. So the application area you bring into the title, the type of material that you are bringing to the title. What is the novelty? It's an interpenetrating nanofibrous material. Okay. Many composite membranes are there. So what is the special about this composite membrane? Interpenetrating nanofibrous. So the speciality of the material, the type of material, and the application area. Again, silver nanoparticle mediated therapies in the treatment of pancreatic cancer. So application area, treatment of pancreatic cancer, silver nanoparticle, and that related to therapies. So you have to have an idea about these are some of the examples on how to write a title of a manuscript. It should be attractive, basically. So this is one of the title. Even in this article is published in Science Advances in 2018. They have used the word shaken and stirred. Okay. This is the article, nothing is about the viscosity and of a suspension and all those things. But they still use the word shaken and stirred to attract the reader. Have you ever heard of these words? No? Shaken and stirred. It used to come in James Bond movies. James Bond once has his champagne as shaken but not stirred. So they use these words just to attract the reader. Has nothing to do with the paper because basically they are dealing with some suspension and they are studying the viscosity and rheological property of the suspension. It's basically a scientific work only. But just to get the attraction of the reader, they are put like that. Another title. You might have seen the movie Die Hard. The hero is Bruce Willis. So they are coining the word die hard or cancer stem cells or the Bruce Willis of tumor biology. So they are dealing with the cancer stem cells and dealing with the tumor biology. But just to attract the reader, they put the word die hard. It's a famous movie by Bruce Willis. So that's what. The title should be attractive. Okay. Author's name and affiliation. Generally, the sequence of authors depends on the relative contribution. And the first author, the maximum amount of work is be the first author and the supervisor at the end. That is the general trend. Okay. And if there are authors belong to different institutions, that you have to mark them with the subscript as ABC or 1, 2, 3. Okay. In general, we avoid the usage of doctor or professor or some of the designations and degrees in the and the corresponding author should be marked with an asterisk. That is one of the exercise in your assignment. This is there. Can you able to identify the corresponding author in the paper? Okay. And you have to include the email address and others for corresponding author in the footnotes. And then some of the areas, you might have, there are people from different institutions doing different part of work. Say for example, I am doing a material synthesis aspect and characterization aspect, and one of my colleague in another laboratory, in a collaborative laboratory, they will be doing biological studies. In that case, we both have done a lot of amount of work. So whom to give the first authorship? So in that case, both authors can share as can be a first author. That you have to mention it that both authors have contributed equally and should be marked with a special character and mention that in the footnote that both authors can be considered as first author. Because if a large amount of work is done by the authors, so jointly they can be called as first authors. Okay, that practice can be done. Talking about authorship, there are Nowadays, no, people are involving a lot of, they're putting a lot of authors. Okay. So that's why I put this joke that the professor is asking why it is taking so long to complete the paper. And the student is answering that he was busy typing down the names of all co-authors. So that many co-authors are there in many papers. There are always some conflict about the authorship issues, because I have made a lot of contribution and I should be given the right credit. Okay, my name was put in the last or on the fourth author or third author. There are a lot of disputes going on, particularly in collaborative works. When two different laboratories have done a lot of work, I should be given the top priority, we should be given maximum weightage and all. So there is a lot of dispute in authorship issues. So the journals are thinking about moving from authorship to contributorship. So they are saying that we are not going to bother much about who is the first author, who is the third or fourth author. They are going to focus mainly on what is the contribution of every individual author in the paper. So that is the contributorship. Towards the contributorship, we are moving from authorship to contributorship. So what is it? They have published a paper in Proceedings of the National Science Academy in 2018. This clearly says transparency in authors' contributions and responsibilities to promote integrity in scientific publications. Okay, so there are a lot of authors in these papers also. But what they say is you have to define the role of every author. What is the contribution of every author? That's what they say. So one example is that. So I have taken it from a paper, author's contribution. There are various types of contribution from different authors. Say for example, the first author, conceptualization of the work, investigation, methodology, writing the original draft, writing, review and editing, visualization and supervision. All these things he has done. Like that, every author, say for example, this author, resources, bringing resources, writing, review and editing. Some other person, okay, you can say investigation and methodology. All these people are focusing mainly on generating the data for the work. Some people, they are focusing mainly on writing and reviewing. And the supervisor for supervision and funding acquisition, he is responsible for the funding acquisition. He is the main professor in this group. Okay, so he is responsible for funding acquisition, and other people are, senior people are involved for supervision. So these are the main students who are done investigation and methodology. So like that, the contribution made by every author should be defined very clearly. Now that's many of the journals have made this as a requirement. Okay, they don't bother whether you are a first author or fourth author or fifth author. They say what is your contribution, that should be mentioned very clearly in the manuscript itself. Okay, mostly they put it on at the end of after the acknowledgement column, they put these things. Abstract, as I already mentioned, it is the most commonly read section in a paper. That is why many publishers are giving abstract as free of cost. And when you are writing the abstract, don't write it as a big story. It should be self-contained and pertinent, maximum 200 words, that is good enough. Okay. Particularly, you should focus why this study and what has been studied. You need not write an introduction about it. Say for example, if it is a biomaterial, what is the biomaterial? Don't write like that. Abstract, you should, first line itself you say why you are doing this work, and say what is about the work, what you have studied, what is the methodology. And finally, some brief experimental methods you can give it in brief, and highlight the major findings of your work and conclusions drawn from the study. So why this study, what has been studied, what are the major findings and conclusions drawn from the study. 4 or 5 sentences in 200 words is good enough for an abstract. And don't include any abbreviations, illustrations, tables and references in the abstract. Abstract should be a simple paragraph. So mainly remember that, why this study, what has been studied, major findings and conclusions. These are the things in abstract. Keywords. Keywords are very, very important. We have to include at least 5 to 8 appropriate keywords. Why I am saying appropriate keywords? Because they are using that keywords to index for indexing purposes. So when you are searching for a manuscript in a search engine, say for example Google, you are typing a keyword only. So for that you have to choose a keyword in such a way that it should appear in the search. It should appear first in the search. So that's why I've said appropriate keywords. It's not simply some keywords. Okay. And these words should be essentially drawn from the title, abstract, and full text of the manuscript. Again, I said the choice of words should facilitate searching. That is the importance of the keyword. Whenever somebody is searching for an article, for a particular topic about the message, your article should come. So for that, you have to choose the appropriate keyword. Okay. So we can refer the author instructions, how to prepare the keywords and other things. There's also one more question in the assignment, that what is the relation between the keywords, abstract, and the title? Because it should be related. Because then only your article will be, when somebody is searching, your article will appear. Okay, you cannot arbitrarily choose the keyword. The keywords, title, and abstract should have a lot of common things. Should have common things in there.
Yeah, specifying it as index terms.
Yeah, this keyword is also an index term. Yeah. Introduction, writing an introduction. This is also another question in the assignment. How many paragraphs in the introduction? That's what I'm coming to. Actually, the assignment is a self-learning program. Okay, whatever I'm telling now, if you recall that assignment, you will understand why that assignment was given earlier. Introduce the field along with its importance, a few lines. Because you are writing whenever you are writing, you should remember the targeted audience. You are writing a research paper. Who are all the targeted audience? An expert researcher or people who are already doing research. They know much better than us. That is the word that we should remember. So there is no need for us to introduce the field to them. They say we already know about all these things. So you should write just only the importance of the field, a few lines, maybe 1 or 2 lines, that's enough. And highlight the current state of affairs. That is more important. What is the current state of affairs? There is no need to write about the history of these materials. Okay, energy material, the energy materials are important, this much economic thing is there and the fuel problems are there. No need to write all those things. Highlight this current state of affairs and cite relevant literature. Okay. Citing relevant literature means, so and so has done this work, so and so has done this work. That is not citing a relevant literature. There should be, what is the point that you are going to say? Related to that, the reference should be there. It is not some literature reference. And address major problems that are yet to be solved. That is more important. And how critical they are towards the development of a process or product. So that means that you have to do something useful. That words clearly says that. There is no point in making, I have made some study and I am reporting it. It is not like that. You have to address the major problems in a field that are yet to be solved and how critical they are towards the development of a product or process or something like that. And justify the work very clearly. Justification is very, very important. If you cannot write a justification, say for example, you are doing a work and I am asking the question why you are doing this work. And if you cannot able to write a 1-page justification why you are doing the work, it is better not to do the work. Okay. So you should not do any work just for the case of generating a data. You should have a proper understanding why I am doing this work. Okay, that is very, very important. So justification should be very clear. In justification means rationally behind the choice of method. You are doing a particular synthesis by a particular method. Say for example precipitation method or hydrothermal method or solvothermal method or using ultrasonication. Why you have chosen that method? That you have to very clearly explain. And you have to compare the negative points of other methods. In what way this methodology is superior to compared to other methods. So that knowledge you should be able to give. Okay. And how the outcome will solve the problem or improve the process or extend the application area. Because that means that you have to have a problem statement. You have to have a problem statement. Based on the problem statement only you have to work. Okay. So justification is very, very important. This is one of the paper published in Nature Communications, and they have clearly mentioned the problem statement. A critical issue for the acceptance of additive manufacturing is the degree of isotropy during the manufactures because of the solidification conditions. Because there is a laser based method, there will be rapid heating and rapid cooling, so there will be change in microstructure, there will be degree of isotropy induced into the components fabricated by additive manufacturing, and that is a major problem. So the problem statement you have to identify. The problem statement should be clearly said. This is the problem, like that. And justification. Justification means you have to mention what is the problem, or what is the lacuna, what is the gap in the research area. Okay, that you have to identify. So the research starts from there. Research starts from identifying the problems area and giving a problem statement. This is the problem in this topic or in this area of research. Okay, and that is what you have to solve. It is not the question of you are making some study. You have to solve some problems. Okay. And during the thing, you are not the only person, you are not the only researcher who are approaching the problem. There may be many researchers who might have already done. Okay. So what is the strategy other researchers have adopted? Many people might have adopted some different strategy to solve the problem. And what are the benefits they have gained? What are the limitations still existing in their development? So that you have to highlight. So first thing is problem statement, and what are the strategies explored by other researchers, and what are the benefits and limitations of those strategies that you have to highlight. And then you tell what is your idea to solve the problem, and how you are going to approach the problem. There may be several strategies. So how you are going to approach when compared to the others. And then you write, why do you think that your idea might work? Why do you think that your idea might work? It is not that I will try it in random. It is not like that. There should be a logical explanation why you are trying to do this method, trying to do particular approach. And clearly specify the hypothesis to be tested. So I am going to verify this concept. Okay, this is the problem, these are the strategies approached by different methods, and still the problem is unsolved, and this is my plan, and this is my approach, and this is the hypothesis that I am going to verify during this process. And based on that, you have to derive the objectives. It is not the objective that I want to synthesize a nanomaterial and characterize a nanomaterial and publish a paper. That should not be the objective. The objective is, you take the nanomaterial area, there may be difficulties. Say for example, nanomaterials normally have a problem of agglomeration. Nanomaterial, you cannot store it in a bottle, you have to always keep it in dispersion. Okay. If you prepare a nanomaterial, it automatically starts agglomerating. Okay, that's a problem. Agglomeration of nanomaterials is a problem. So that is a problem statement. How many people have approached in solving, in preventing the agglomeration of nanoparticles? Some methods may be there. Somebody might have tried. You highlight this. What are the benefits and what are the still limitations are there? What is your idea? Can I use a surface active agent to mix it in a suitable solvent so that the surface active agent will go and absorb on the nanoparticle surface, and with their function, with their nitrogen or sulfur groups, and the hydrophobic tail will be balancing outside, and that will be repulsion between the hydrophobic tail, so that the nanoparticle remain in suspension for a longer time. I can use acetyl trimethyl ammonium bromide. Okay, I can be able to prepare a dispersion. I can increase the stability of the suspension for a longer time. Okay, so how surfactants can be useful for that? So all these justifications you have to give. Why you are doing that? What is the application area? And be specific to the application area. When you are telling about, I am going to try this application area, don't say biomedical area or energy area. Be specific. Biomedical means be specific. What is the particular application? For cell growth, for bone tissue engineering, all those things very clearly you specify. And limit the entire introduction and justification in just 2 A4 size papers. Don't write histories. Okay, that is why I asked how many paragraphs are written in the introduction section. Okay, so limit the introduction and justification to 2 A4 size papers, that will do. Within that itself, you have to be able to explain everything. So justification should be clear, the top priority. No need to write histories. This is an example. Okay, I have highlighted from the paper. The first thing is, what is the limitation? So they said because of the laser heating and the rapid heating and cooling, there will be a sharp change in the thermal history. Okay, that induces the change in the microstructure of the titanium alloy, titanium 6 aluminum 4 vanadium alloy. So from alpha plus beta titanium, it's alpha plus beta titanium alloy. So it changes to alpha prime martensite phase, which is brittle in nature. So that is a limitation. So I highlighted the points and wrote the question as, what is the limitation, current limitation used in the selective laser melting processes or additive manufacturing process of metals. So this is a point, it's problem statement. And what are the approaches to overcome these problems? So many people have done. So post-thermal treatment or thermomechanical treatment or hot isostatic pressing. So these things are tried earlier, and they could be able to solve the problem to some extent. So all those things you list. And again, what are the still main challenges that still remains open? So that only you have to explore. Okay. and how the currently used process deleteriously influences the properties of the components. So for example, I already told there is a phase transformation from alpha plus beta to alpha Martin-Side transformation, and that is affecting the density, and all those problems are there. So you have to highlight the problem, and still what is the challenge that remains, what remains open that you should highlight. And what is the approach? So they developed a titanium lanthanum system, so that they feel that they could be able to solve the problem. So what is the approach? What is your approach in solving the problem? So those things you need to highlight in the paper. New ideas you have to form. No, it's not the question of taking a paper and following it in a similar way and preparing. Say for example, they used citric acid. Okay, wherever the place citric acid, use tartaric acid will also work. So I will replace the citric acid with tartaric acid, and I will do the work. That may not be end up in a very good finding, or you cannot able to make a significant impact of the work. So you have to apply ideas across the field. So this one example. Now this is a story published in Graphene Info. So the researchers, what they did is they stitched reduced graphene oxide sheets together to increase the strength. Okay, so I put a joke on this. Okay, two dudes are discussing about it. We are also working on reduced graphene oxides, and why this idea didn't come to us? One of the person is asking. The other person is telling, very simple, because we don't know the stitching. We never learned tailoring. Okay, tailoring is a different field. Okay, so they are doing the stitching together concept. So if it is applying the idea from other areas, then only you can able to bring novelty, you can able to bring a big change in your work. So you should read a lot and apply the ideas from other fields. That is important. That is why I am putting this thing. Materials and methods. You have to give the details of the metals or materials or chemicals or animal species or microorganisms, and where exactly they are sourced. Okay. And methods of synthesis. What type of methods of synthesis? Process variables and conditions. All those things should be clearly mentioned in the materials and methods. Again, justification for the choice of materials and methods. Why you have chosen a particular type of material? Why you have chosen a particular type of titanium alloy? Why you have chosen a particular methodology of synthesis? Say for example, hydrothermal synthesis or solvothermal synthesis or ultrasonic synthesis, etc. Methods of characterization and measurements. There's also a question in that in the assignment sheet. What are the equipments they used and what are the models? All those things you have to give. And methods used for data and statistical analysis. It is not enough to do experiment only once, because the data that we are reporting is not absolute value. It is likely to vary. So you have to do at least 2 or 3 times, minimum of 3 times, and you have to give a standard deviation along the data. So statistical details also you have to give. Use flow sheets and schematic diagrams as much as possible, because a picture is worth more than 1,000 words. So use flow sheets and schematic diagrams to explain the experimental details. If you have a new calculation procedure, that you can include in the supplementary details. Okay. If the test protocols were described already in your previous publication, then cite that paper itself. No need to repeat, because now plagiarism is considered as a very big problem. Okay. It's a serious offense. Where the plagiarism is mainly coming in a research article is, it is the experimental section. Because you are saying that I am doing the same methods of synthesis, same methods of characterization. So I have copied down my own paper, from the first paper to the second paper, I have copied and pasted the experimental section. That is called self-plagiarism. That is also not allowed. It is very difficult to write. You know, it's the same equipment, it is the same methodology, it is the same condition. How you can write it in a different form? It is very difficult. So what is the best way to avoid plagiarism? If you have already done the work and it is already published, just to cite that paper. All the relevant details are already published in the earlier manuscript. Give the references. That is good enough. Don't repeat the entire experimental section, and particularly do not copy and paste it. That will be a serious offense. Okay. Schematic representation. I was telling about flow sheets and schematic representations are very, very important. I will give some of the examples. So these authors have done, they prepared a multi-step synthesis involving the synthesis of titanium dioxide, nanocarbon and molysulfide. Okay, so first they have taken manganese dioxide and they coated with the titanium dioxide and they coated with the polydopamine and then they converted to nanocarbon and then subsequently coated with the molybdenum disulfide. So by giving a simple picture, they are explaining the entire experimental methodology, what is the modifications they have made and how they have made. Okay, another example. They prepared copper nanowires So what they did, they have taken a polycarbonate sheet as a template. They sputtered with the silver, okay, for conducting it. Okay, so then they do electroless copper deposition. Electroless method means it's similar to electron deposition, but without application of a current. Only by the chemical reducing agent will supply the electrons necessary for the reduction of metal. So by electroless method, they deposit copper, and then they can electrolytically deposit copper within the gaps, and they remove the electrode, and finally they remove the template also, and they are ending up with the copper nanowires. So by looking at the picture, you could be able to explain how they have done. So that is the way that we have to develop the schematics. Another method, example, they used hydroxyapatite nanowires, and then they mix with Keldan blocks and blending, filtration, drying, and do a PDMS coating and curing at 100 degrees centigrade for 1 hour, and you can be able to get all weather flexible conducting paper. The schematic representation of the whole experimental section. Okay, various strains of virus, Omicron variant, Delta, Omicron, BA1, BA2, all this schematic representation. Okay, now come to the results and discussion part. Results and discussion can be written together, or it can be written as results separately and discussion separately. That depends upon your way of writing, as well as some of the journal style also. You can do that, follow that. Provide illustrations and schematics and tables. That is because that will be they are more effective. Okay. Analyze the data. Evaluate the extent of change in properties and interpret the results. These are the main things that we have to do, and these are the key aspects in writing a results and discussion. Whether you have analyzed the data properly, whether you have evaluated how much the extent of change in property, whether improvement, we are calling it as improvement in property, how much improvement, and you have to interpret the results in a proper way. That is important. Validate the results. What I mean by validate the results, say for example, if you have calculated the crystallized size of a material, okay, using X-ray diffraction from the full width of maxima, you have done X-ray diffraction, you have used the full width of maxima, and then using the Scherer's formula, you calculate the crystallized size. Okay, and you are reporting that my material, the size, the crystallized size of the material is 25 nanometers or 24 nanometers, like that. But people may not accept it still. They will say that you have to provide a transmission electron micrograph of your material so that I can accept it still as a nanomaterial. So you have to validate the results with the multiple and valid experimental details that we have to do it. You should be able to predict new possibilities and propose new mechanisms. Suppose that is why I'm telling you, don't follow don't take a paper and follow the similar methodology. In that case, this will not be possible. Proposing new mechanisms will not be possible, because you will be reassuring whatever the data that reported by earlier researchers. You are reconfirming the facts that is already reported. So that may not end up in a very novel work. Okay, that may be still a work and a data, but it may not be a novel work, and you cannot be able to propose any new mechanisms and things. And highlight the major findings. Provided well-supported opinions with no ambiguity. You cannot always write this may be due to, this could be due to, like that. Clearly say that this is due to this, and supported by what evidence. Okay, the material prepared is highly crystalline. Okay, how do you know? Because from the X-ray diffraction pattern, the peaks are very sharp. That clearly indicates that material is highly crystalline material, like that. And compare and contrast the inferences made with those made by other researchers. Because you may be doing a lot of experiments, you may be generating a lot of data. Okay, what is it? You explain. Okay, I'm getting a FTA, I'm doing a FTA, Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy, I'm getting a peak around, broad peak around 3,400 nanometer, 3,400 wavelength. So this is maybe due to a hydroxyl peak, that you can write it. But it may be or may not be correct. You have to compare with what other people have reported for a similar material, whether they have also observed a similar broad peak at that particular range. Okay, if not, why they have not observed and why you are observing. So all those things you have to compare and contrast the result reported by others and reported by you. So that is important. That is the main part of discussion in your thing. Otherwise it is simply a result. You have written your result, and what is it? What you are observing only you are writing. What other people have observed. Whether you agree with your results or you disagree with their results. If there is a disagreement, why there is a disagreement? If there is a variation, why there is a variation? All those things that you need to explain. That forms the discussion part. And provide details on the limitations of the study. This is the missing part in many of the articles. We all highlight the benefits and the improvements that we have made, the accomplishments that we have made doing the work. But we never cite even a single sentence about this is the limitation of the study. Why I am saying this? Because when I start this lecture, I said that no, for the justification, you need a problem statement. You need to know where is the problem. Where is the problem? This is the problem. When somebody says that this is my limitation, I tried to improve the mechanical property of a particular material, but I could be able to improve only to this much extent. This is the limitation of this methodology. This is the limitation of the study. Okay, so that is the starting point for the next researcher. That is the starting point of the researcher. So the researchers have a moral responsibility to lead, to provide a way, to provide a pathway for the next researcher to follow. Okay, that is why you have to mention the limitations of the study in your paper. It is a starting point for the next researcher. As already said, interpretation is very, very important. Do not interpret wrongly. You have to make the correct interpretation. Do's and don'ts in illustrations, photos, and tables. Do not duplicate the data. Okay, do not duplicate the data. There is no monkey business. Presentation of the same data both as an illustration and as a table is not accepted. Either you present it in the form of an illustration or you present it in the form of the legends of figures and tables should be self-explanatory. There was a question in the assignment sheet, whether it was explained properly. So without reading into the text, the reader should be able to understand what is the work about and what you have done, what you have mentioned in that table or figure. It should be self-explanatory. Use appropriate symbols and colors to represent the data point. Okay, do not confuse. Avoid crowding of data points in the illustration. If it is too much of data, then you put it in separate things. Scaling of the axis is should be very proper. We are always now using softwares, Excel, Origin and all, etc. So for example, the case of pH. Okay, if you measure the pH about 6 or 7 readings and typing it in Excel or Origin and automatically plot, it will plot 0, 5, 10 and 15 and in the y-axis scale. But there is no 15 in the pH. Okay, so that you should remember. Those sort of mistakes you should not do. Okay, scaling should be proper. Photographs, scanning electron micrograph, transmission electron micrograph, all these things you have to include a scale bar or a known object like a coin or a scale to show that extent of magnification. Because the reader should know how much it is magnified, how many times it is magnified. So scale bar is very, very important in photographs, scanning electron micrograph and transmission electron micrograph. Okay. Be specific in expressing the conditions. Do not write as room temperature. Room temperature in India and room temperature in Canada are totally different. So if you want to write, if you are doing the work in India, mention it as 25 degrees centigrade or 27 degrees centigrade. Do not write as room temperature. Be specific in writing the experimental conditions. Use of decimals. You should know the significance when giving a decimal signal. Suppose you are taking 200 grams of sodium chloride, there is no point in mentioning as 0.02 gram. That doesn't mean much of a sense. So you should know the significance of the decimals when expressing these things. Include number of measurements, error bars and standard deviation. This is very, very important. How many times you have done the work? What is the variation? You have to necessarily include the error bars. You have to necessarily include the standard deviation in the tabular column, error bars in the illustrations. This is very, very important. So this is a graphene membrane they have prepared and they put an inch tape to show the magnification. So without that, you do not have any idea what is the size of the membrane. Okay. So another example, this is additively manufactured components. They put a scale bar, so you could be able to see the size of the component. People be able to see the size of the component. Scanning electron micrograph, transmission electron micrograph. Mention the scale bar. How much magnification it is. Very, very important. Do not forget these things. Say some development of a porous structure in a biomimetic fiber. Okay, how they have done at various temperatures. Okay, and the various types of pores, aligned pores, random pores, all those things you can mention. Mention the scale bar. That is very important. Presentation of the data very important. So this is example, flexible electrically conducting paper, PDMS based papers. So this is a scanning electron micrograph, morphological features, and this shows the water contact angle. Okay, it is hydrophobic, and it is flexible, and it is electrically conducting. So those pictures clearly explain the characteristics of the characteristic properties of the material. So use that way when you are presenting a data. So another example, non-wetting material. Okay, the dirts are there, and when you apply water, it automatically cleans up the dirt. Okay, and it's also electrically conducting. How they explain it with the figures. So pictorial representation is very, very important when you are representing a data. And most important thing is check the results are reproducible. Okay, whether Newton's gravity works or not, but make sure that the results are reproducible. When you are submitting photographs, the photograph should be of very high quality. Do not send smudge images and then lack of clarity and low quality images. Images should be of the best quality. At least they mentioned about the resolutions 300 to 600. So they mentioned mostly you have to take care of that photographic quality. Okay, very much important. When you are presenting your conclusion, include all significant findings and address practical implications of the finding, where it can be practically used. That also you should mention. Provide recommendations for the future work, where it can be extended, with which areas you can extend. Include applications of the present work to other areas. Abstract and conclusion should be totally different. Many people confuse. They rewrite the abstract again. It is not like that. So abstract and conclusions are totally different. Do not write statements that is not connected as a part of the study. Say for example, if you have not studied about bioactivity studies or biological studies, they say that it will work for that. Don't write like that, because without studying a thing, we cannot able to conclude about it. And the summary of the findings, implications and limitations are very important when you are giving a conclusion studies. So one implication, practical implications. When they developed nanotubes, the ants are saying that finally they can drink Coke with the straw. Okay, so that's what this joke is put only to say that you have to mention about the implications of the study. Acknowledgements, you have to necessarily acknowledge the funding agency because of their funds and fellowships we could be able to do the work. And directors and HOD for extending all infrastructure facilities and advanced instrumentation facilities. If you have contacted a company and they're given free samples in the form of chemicals or materials, that has to be acknowledged. Technicians can be acknowledged. Most of us are not acknowledging technicians because they do a wonderful job in helping you to acquire micrographs and other things. Okay, and scientists and professors who are helpful in understanding and interpreting your results, you can acknowledge. And your colleagues for their help in performing the experiments as well as not disturbing you during the experimentation, you can acknowledge. References, compile all the references cited in the manuscript and place them after the acknowledgement section. Okay. Refer author instructions to follow because different journals follow different style of reference formatting. So you have to refer to the journal that you are submitting it. Mostly cite recent references within 5 years, within 5 to 10 years. But do not forget to give credit to the original discoveries. Okay, mostly recent 5 years. So there is a question, how many papers are the recent 5 years? Because that's what I said. Check and recheck the accuracy of all the references. Do not copy it from an earlier paper, the reference section. You go to the original source and verify whether the page numbers, volume numbers and year of publication are correct, and then you put it. Do not copy it from an earlier paper or particularly from earlier theses. Okay. And if permissible, use digital object identifier. Digital object identifier is a unique identification number for every research article. Okay, I was mentioning about the digital resources. You can download papers from SEA Hub. For that you need, if you know the digital object identifier of the number of the particular article, you can type in the DOA number and you can download the paper. So use a unique identification number for every research article. And you can also provide a hyperlink so that the reader can directly click on and then use a hyperlink, they can refer to the paper. So if possible, you can include the DOA number and hyperlink, but it's not strictly, it is not a mandatory thing, but if you want, you can include all those things for the benefit of the readers. There are different reference styles. MLA styles, APA, Chicago, IEEE, CSE, like that. So it depends on the journal requirement. You go through the author instruction, and they might have mentioned what is the format that you have to follow in formatting the references. Accordingly, you have to do that. What is the optimal number of references? Okay, if you limit the number of very few references, they say that you have not read it properly, or your thing is not clear. If you have mentioned too many references, then they say that the field is already well established, there is nothing much there, the new in your work. So you have to make an optimum. Rightly about 40 to 50 references is good enough for many papers. You can cite your own paper. There is nothing wrong in it, because people are afraid that no, whether I can cite my own paper. If you do not cite your own paper, then other people are not expected to cite your paper. So better to do citation of our own paper. And of course, there are scientists struggling for citations, so he can give citations, because citation is considered as one of the important evaluation part in giving promotions and assessments. Okay. But make sure that why I am saying that now you go to the original source and check, because this is an article detail, the art of writing a scientific article by the authors and things. This they have given it as a reference in a journal. How to cite a reference, how to follow what is the format that they have to follow. But unfortunately, this has been cited by many people, and again people taken from the reference section, again they cite it. But unfortunately, this is not available. This article itself is not available. But if you check it in Google, it says it is cited 1,163 times. But the article is not existing. It is only given as a style, how to format the references. That's why. So it clearly shows that the people have taken the reference from the reference previously published article. They don't refer to the original article. If you refer to the original article, you could not have found that article. Supplementary file. Nowadays, many journals, they want to highlight only the key points, salient features of a paper, some important results only in the manuscript. Remaining everything, you put it in the, say for example, if you are preparing a nanomaterial and highlighting one of the particular application. They say that you tell mainly about the synthesis part and the application area. Remaining all your characterization, right from XRD, FTER, Raman spectroscopy, transmission of spectroscopy, everything you put it in the supplementary file. Because we want only the synthesis of nanomaterial and its application area. That is alone is good enough in a paper. Remaining things, they can put it in a supplementary file. So if anybody wants those details, they can go and refer. Okay. Supporting information is part of the paper, and you cannot publish it as a separate paper. That you should remember that. You can provide additional data sets. You might have done a lot of experiments. You can provide, some experimental procedures, spectral data, modeling coordinates and programs, crystallographic information files, movie files, audio clips. So all those things you can give it in the supplementary file also. Three-dimensional structures. And supplementary file also, it should be cited in the text. So normal figures we cited as figure 1, figure 2, like that. In supplementary file, we mention as figure S1, table S1. The S represent for supplementary. Okay. There also you have to follow the symbol S1, S2, like that. And you have to give the clear caption. All these things, procedures you have to follow. And if the data is previously published, particularly this happens when you are writing a review paper. You are comparing all the published results, and you can have, you can use those results. You can use the tabular column, you can use the figures, but necessarily you have to obtain permission from the publisher. Otherwise, it will become a copyright violation. Okay, this is very, very important, because you need to get permission from the publisher. Because when you are publishing a paper, you are transferring the rights, the copyright to the publisher. So it is no longer, it is your property. It is the publisher's property. You might have done all the hard work. You might have done all the hard work to generate the data. You might have compiled all the data. You might have presented it in a beautiful way. All those things are right. But the moment you publish a paper, you are transferring the copyright to the publisher. So it belongs to the publishers. It is no longer your property. And even if you want to use the same illustration or table for your own thesis, you have to necessarily get permission from the publisher to reproduce. Because you are reproducing the same data again, even in some other publication, in a review paper, in a thesis, in some other reports. You have to necessarily get the permission from the publisher. Otherwise, this will become a copyright violation. Remember that. Do not do that. You have to reproduce. Get the permission to reproduce. Okay. You have to provide an author statement while publishing a paper. What is author statement? All authors have seen and approved the final version of the being submitted. You may include your friends, your colleagues, as well as other people or other faculty members from your department as a co-authors. But you have to show the manuscript copy, final version, and you have to get the approval of the all the members. So all the members agree whatever the contents that you have reported. That is important before submitting. So that is the author statement. You have to give a statement, you have to give a declaration that all the authors of this manuscript have seen the manuscript and approved the final version of the manuscript before submitting. Okay. And don't write that all, we have provided the original data in the manuscript wherever possible, because you have to provide original data only. Another statement is the data availability statement that is being introduced now. Because you have generated the data, you may not be able to give the raw data. You should be able to keep it in your computer or in your logbook, it will be there. But if any of the researcher demands that I want to look at your raw data or the processed data, okay, what is your statement? Whether you will be willing to provide, willing to share the raw data, willing to show the raw data or the processed data. So that you should be able to make available upon request. That you have to give a statement. The raw processed data required to reproduce these findings, because reproducibility is important in research. You have reported a particular synthesis, but somebody is doing, they are not getting it. So they will ask, what methodology you followed? Can you be able to share your data? Then you should be able to share your data. You cannot report just like that. You have to be able to show your data. Okay. And the raw data supporting the conclusions of this article will be made available by authors without undue reservation. That you have to declaration. That you have to, without any reservation, you have to share. That is important. So don't write that the raw and processed data of our work cannot be shared at any point of time as it is a continuous ongoing work. Don't write like that. You have to share. It's a moral responsibility of every researcher or every author. Conflict of interest statement. We have to declare that we have no competing financial interests or personal relationship that could have appeared to influence the work reported in this paper. So any financial implications or personal relationship should not influence that reported in the paper. That you have to declare. Say for example, they have filed a patent, particularly the group of authors, they have filed a patent that gold, copper and silver powder and method of manufacturing such powders with a patent application number. It is only filed. When you are filing a patent, they will give an application number only. The patent is filed. It has not been approved. Then you have to declare, that's in the conflict of interest statement, that a patent is filed based on this paper, based on this work. That you have to declare. Okay. Some of the members may be employed in a particular company. So those people should not have any commercial or financial relationship with the work or those things that you have to mention. Okay. Suppose two of the researchers, earlier they were working in the particular university and then now they were employed in another institute. So it will be inappropriate for anyone to review this work. Okay, because they have already associated with this work. So they cannot review the same work. So it is inappropriate. So this all comes under conflict of interest. So two of the authors are in the editorial board. So they cannot be assigned a peer review process, or they cannot be given the responsibility for these things. Okay, so these are some of the process of important points in conflict of interest studies. Graphical abstract, now every journal is asking to give you a graphical abstract. What is a graphical abstract? It is a pictorial representation of the salient features of your work. That's all. Okay. You should focus on the concept, evaluation, method, and the outcome of the result. Concept, evaluation, and outcome. What is your take-home message? That is what should be there in the picture. Make it colorful and attractive. Okay, that you should be a promoter of your own paper, because nowadays many papers are being published. The readers are confused what to read and what to leave. Okay, so you should be a promoter. You should be a promoting manager for your own work. You should be able to promote. Okay, and people are spending a lot of money. I was working in Korea. the researchers, professors used to spend nearly $200 to $300 to make one graphical abstract, because their aim is to bring that graphical abstract as in the cover page of the journal. Bringing it, their work in the cover page is a honor for many people consider that. So they make it, they hire professional people. They hire professional people to make the graphical abstract. They even spend $200 to $300 to make that colorful. Okay. Basically, it should attract the readers. Again, it's a marketing. It's a marketing. You be a marketing manager for your own paper. So some of the cover page images. So nano-engineered ionic covalent entanglement using a bio ink. So how they prepared. It's a bioprinting, how they prepared a human ear. So another example, ligand-mediated delivery for tissue-specific targeting. That strong mesoporous and hydrophobic biocomposites for selective separation of oil and water mixtures. How it is represented pictorially. Another example, what are the things, everything they have done. It's published recently in Langmu by one of the Chinese professors, and they were given barcode also. You can highlight. Okay. What is the order of writing? Now we have compiled generated all the data, you compiled all the data, and when you are writing the manuscript, what should be the order? You can follow any order. There is no hard and fast rule, but this is one of my recommendations. Since you have done all the work and generated all the data that is already available, first you consolidate all the illustrations and tables. That's what I do. First to make sure that all the figures are properly plotted, with correct scaling, everything, clear images, and tabular column with the proper units. Okay, whenever you're putting tabular column, don't forget to include the units. Okay, so that is, units are very, very important. Materials and methods you can write next, because you've already done the experiments. You know what is the procedure and what is the characterization methodology, what are the equipments that you used. So everything you know. So first, whatever the data that is available in your hand, you compile. And then you go with your results. Okay, you have compiled all the results, you write down the important inferences that you have drawn from your results. And then discussions pertaining to the results. So that is first thing you write, because results and discussions are very important. And finally, what are the conclusions that you are drawing from based on your results and the discussions. Then come to the introduction, justifications. The abstracts, keywords, and graphical abstracts you can write, and other sections you can write. First, start with the results available, compilation of results. Do's and don'ts in writing a manuscript. This is particularly applicable when a large group of people are doing the work. And everyone is doing a particular part, particularly from 2 or 3 different institutions. Okay, one person doing this work, one person doing the other work, all those things. Only one author should write the entire manuscript. It is not that, okay, you write this part, I write this part, and then we can join together. It will not join, because the writing style of every individual is totally different. Okay, you can have discussion among your group, any number of discussion, any lengthy discussion. But finally, only one person who should take the responsibility to compile all the points and write it in one style. Okay, because the manuscript is also like a story. It should have one beginning and one end. There should be continuity between every sentence. There should be continuity between every paragraph. It should be like a garland. Okay, so it is very, very important that only one author should write. You have to check the spelling and grammar. Nowadays, very softwares are available. Okay, you can check the spelling. And maintain uniformity. Now, as far as theses and manuscripts are now, uniformity is you have to maintain. If you are putting one picture in one font and one font size, and the other picture in another font type, don't do that. You do it uniformly. Whatever the font or whatever the size you choose, do it uniformly. And whenever you are using abbreviation, you should be expanded when you are using the first time. So that is very important, because you know what is it. Okay, XRD means you know what is it. I don't know what is XRD. So you should necessarily mention X-ray diffraction within bracket XRD when you are using the first time. Okay, so remember, only one author should write the entire manuscript. What to write and what to not write. Every word should be there for a reason. Every sentence should be there for a reason. Make sure when you are writing a sentence, whether it is absolutely necessary, this sentence, you think about it, rethink about it during the revision stage, that you can modify it. I will tell with an example. Okay, you know about all these jokes, no? Okay, ingu nalla meengal virkappadum. So you say that inga thane vikira. So like that, this word, don't write anything unnecessarily. That's what. This joke is mainly put to make the point. What should be the length of a manuscript? Okay, we are talking about a research article. Review article, there is no limit on the number of pages. You can write several pages. The ideal length of a research article should be 25 to 40 A4 size paper. Okay, abstract, only one paragraph, 200 words is good enough. Introduction and justification, only 2 pages, A4 size paper. Materials and methods, another 2 to 3 pages. Results and discussion, maybe as many pages as possible. Depends upon the number of results you have and the number of the amount of discussion that you could be able to write that you can increase. Conclusions, 1 paragraph. Roughly about 6 to 8 illustrations on 1 to 3 tables will have a good balance. And about references 20 to 50. So this is a rough idea about what is the length of a manuscript and what are the various aspects of it. Editing and revising the draft. As I said, in the first draft, you will have random thoughts. You can write whatever coming to your mind, you can write it. During the revision and editing, that you have to do a lot of work. Okay, you might have heard the movie director Bharati Raja. His movie, actually, it's generated only in the editing room. He used to take scenes and sit with the editor, and finally, in the editing room, he used to compile the entire movie. So, a researcher should also be like that. So, when writing the first draft, you read whatever the coming points you write. Then you read, okay, this point should come here, this point should come here, like that. You have to do a lot of editing work and make it compiled in a coherent way that you have to present your data and research. During editing, you identify whether we need to add more points or we need to remove certain sections. Okay, and what are the we have to highlight some important sections. Okay, that we need to improve, and check for any lapse in continuity in sentences and paragraphs. It should be a continuous thing. Okay, do not feel bad that you have to modify the entire paper. That often happens because you write something nonsense during the first draft and then okay, this is entirely rubbish. Okay, throw it off again, rewrite. Ask your friends and colleagues to read and get their suggestions for improvement. Discuss with your supervisor and get the advice on how to make it better. Okay. Do's and don'ts for better writing. Use minimalization to achieve clarity. Limit each paragraph to a single message. Every paragraph should have a single message. Keep it simple. Concise, clear sentences are good. There is no need to use your vocabulary. It's a simple scientific writing. Use simple words, that's enough. Make your writing lively and easier to understand. Okay. Don't break the thoughts of the reader. That's what they're telling. The continuity is very, very important. Otherwise, the reader will get bored. Don't say the same thing again and again in 3 different forms. Okay. And avoid placing equations in the middle of the sentence. At the end of the paragraph, you can put this equation so that the reader will not get any break in thoughts. So these are the recommendations of some of the novelists. Okay. So we are talking about publication. Why we need to publish papers? Okay. What is the necessity? Main thing is, I already said, dissemination of knowledge is an important thing. That is the purpose of publishing. Other researchers can make further progress based on our findings, particularly if we tell this is the limitation of the work, so that may be a starting point for other researchers. Okay, and we need recognition. We always need recognition and appreciations for our work. So for that, we have to publish a paper. And particularly career benefits. And if you want to apply for funding for projects, definitely they will ask how many papers you have published. So based on that, your funding will be granted. So to get funding, nowadays publication is a must. So if you want to continue as a researcher or as an academician or a scientist, count on the publications, because that is going to help you on any day. You have to continuously make it. The problem with publication is, whenever you want, you cannot make it. You have to be continuously in the process. Then only whenever you are applying for a project or you are applying for a position, that publication will help. If you are applying for a position and within 1 month you want to attend the interview, you cannot make a publication at that time. You have to continuously making it. Then only that purpose will help you in getting the interview through. So publishing, now we are talking about novelty, now the Newton's law of gravity. So you can publish it in high impact factor journal. Okay, you also reproduce the same work. Oranges also follow the same law of gravity. You can publish still, of course, in a low impact factor journal. Now you might have heard about Lord Anmansi. No, he always opens his heart and show the Sita and Rama in her heart. And if you ask a researcher, no, all publishers will be in their heart. No, they want to publish papers. Always aim at quality, not the quantity. It is not the number of papers you publish. It is the quality and the impact of the papers that is going to create in the research community. That is more important. And that's what they say. Quantity does not equal quality, and the scientific principles cannot be compromised, cannot be sacrificed. Submitting a paper to the journal, it is a very, very difficult task. You can never satisfy the reviewers and editors. It's a tough job. The moment you submit a paper, and people used to say that, in a journal called Ceramic International, you submit the paper, you go for tea and come back, your paper will be returned back to you. Okay, that much fast they take decisions. Okay. So some of the points that you should remember while submitting a paper: do not rush. There is no need to rush things. Okay. Carefully read the manuscript several times. Avoid mistakes. Okay. And I already said it is important to get approval from all co-authors. Why I am saying that? Now they are asking the email addresses of all the authors. While submitting the paper through online, they are asking the RCID ID of all the authors. They are asking the email address of all the authors. The moment you submit the paper, email will go to all the authors whether you approve the submission or not. If any of the members says that I do not approve, your paper will be returned back immediately. So inform all the co-authors. It is very important. Okay. Choose the most appropriate journal for your article. Don't choose a journal just because it has a high impact factor. Whether it is relevant. Say for example, if you are doing a work on coatings, you cannot submit to your journal on biomaterials or bio thing which is not related to that area. You might be doing some other work, some other coatings. Okay, it is not related to Emeritus, it is not possible. Okay, for how to choose? You read the aims and scope of the journal, because most of the times when they return the paper, they say it is not, doesn't fit into the scope of the journal. So what does mean? You have not read the scope of the journal. So first go through the author instruction, read the scope of the journal, and then you submit. And what type of articles are being published, that you have a glance at it. Take a look at the article, the type of article they are publishing. And who are all the target audience? So those you see. Depending upon that, you have to write the manuscript. And write a covering letter. This is very, very important. You should highlight the importance of your work and suitability of the work for the particular journal. Why my paper is suitable to be published in that journal. That you should write. And submit the manuscript only to one journal at a time. Many people are doing a mistake. They are simultaneously submitting. It is ethically not correct. Okay, if they found out, then they might block you from submitting future manuscripts, because it is not a good practice. As I already said, RCID ID is a must. It's a unique identification number for every researcher, like your Aadhaar card. Okay, it's a unique digital identifier number for every researcher. You have to necessarily register in RCID, and you have to get an RCID ID number. When you are submitting an article, particularly for elsewhere journals, they are asking you to include your RCID ID number. So definitely you should do it. I mentioned about the covering letter. First, the editor will read the covering letter, not the entire manuscript. You'll read the covering letter, whether it is useful. What is when you're writing the covering letter, you should focus on why the topic is important. What are the main results, significant results that you got? What is the main breakthrough that you have accomplished? What is the advancement that you have made when compared to previous work? Why you are submitting to this journal? Why this will attract the journal readers? All these things you have to give it in the covering letter. So the reader will first read the covering letter only. The editor will read only the covering letter. There itself will decide whether the topic is important. He knows what are the significant results in the paper. Based on that, he will review. So he will look at the novelty, whether the novelty is high enough, whether it is different from the earlier work, whether it is important to researchers in the current field of interest, and what about the readership of the journal, whether it is important to their readers. So these are the things mainly they will look at it. You may look at the paper in a different way. I have done all the characterization, I have done all the synthesis important work, I have explored the application area, I have made useful recommendations. All those things are in your paper. But the editor will see whether the novelty is there, whether it is different from your earlier work, whether it is important to their researchers, readers. So those are the things that the editor will see. So if they look at that, they say there is no novelty in your paper. Don't say that this is the novelty. This is not the novelty. It should be totally different. Okay, this is what we are doing it. What is the novelty? Yeah, this is the novelty, like that. This is not the novelty. Reviewing process, suppose if the reviewer accept it, if the editor accept it and send it to the reviewers. Okay. So reviewing job is very, very tough. They will appoint at least 3 reviewers from 3 different areas. So your work might contain synthesis of nanomaterials and characterization of nanomaterials and application area. So they will choose one reviewer from every aspect of it. The person who is good in characterization will list a huge thing, all these things you have to do. Okay. The person who is good in synthesis, he will make all inquiries about the synthesis procedures. Whether it will not have what is the possibility that it will not get agglomerated, what is the possibility it will not increase the size, all those questions. The application field area side will ask all the questions. Again, when you receive the comments, you may have to repeat the entire work. That will happen. Okay. Many journals, they employ blind review process. What is a blind review process? They remove the author name. They remove the author and institution name, and they will just send the paper for the reviewer, so that the editor will not, the reviewer will not know whose paper it is. Okay. So to avoid the influencing, because people say, now they put known reviewers. The journal used to ask some suggestions for reviewers. You can suggest. You can't suggest your own friend as a reviewer for your paper. Then she knows, okay, yes, this is my friend's paper, I will recommend positively, like that. So that's what happening. So they adopt blind review process. And some reviewers are really strict. Even if it is Newton, they will ask you to reproduce. No, you show that law of gravity works. So like that. And it is always a tough affair for between the authors and reviewers. You will never agree with each other. Okay. And there is a paper published in a journal, the Science of Total Environment, how to convince an editor to accept your paper quickly. You can read this paper. You can note down this. This is published in Science of Total Environment in the year 2021. So some of the points are given. But what happens is now, it hardly reaches the editor. Every journal office now, they have an editorial team. The moment you submit your paper, it goes to the editorial team. Okay, they use the keywords, the same keywords that you have given for indexing purposes. Say for example, hydroxyapatite. Okay, they will immediately put hydroxyapatite. And the number of articles that is published already, 400 per year, 300 per year. They will write it in a pencil and they will give it to the editor. You see, 300 papers already published. There is nothing new in this paper. Return to. That's what happens most of the times. Reviewers are very strict, okay, and no one is more hated than he or she who seriously reviews manuscripts. Always we hate reviewers because they are providing a lot of comments. Okay. Your manuscript is so good during submission, but only after getting the reviewer's comment, you know what is the status of it. That the ship is sinking, that you could not answer many of those questions. So that's what happens most of the times. Rejections, they are very common. Rejections are very common. Be prepared to face as many rejections as possible when you are submitting a manuscript. Don't get discouraged. Rejection is very common, even for the bigger top people. Papers are getting rejected. There may be many reasons for rejections. I will tell about that. So we are not in a mental state to accept rejections. We always want success. We never want failures. Okay. So don't get discouraged. Take it cool. And rejections always need not reflect the quality of the paper. Why I am saying that? Your paper is written very well. It has all the concept that is required for a paper. So then why they are rejecting the paper? That is a question. I will tell with an analogy. Okay, it's a festive time and many movies are coming up for screening. One movie by Rajinikanth, one movie by Vijay and all of those famous actors. And there are some movies with unknown actors, newly introduced authors. And imagine that you are the theatre manager or theatre owner. Okay, which picture you will choose? The famous people. Why? Because you want collection. Okay, publishing is also like that. Publishing is not research. Publishing is business. So even though your paper is good, it is not accepted. Why? Because it is not attractive. There is this is not clear. So you are not a famous author. You are not established your credentials. You may be the first time author. So they feel that better I will choose that one. So that is the way it goes. That's the way it works. So don't get discouraged. So if paper is rejected, it doesn't mean that your quality of the work is bad or you are not written it very badly. It's not like that. It may be a different aspect of it, from business promotion of it. So now every editor is looking to improve the impact factor of their journal. So when they will get impact factor, how improve the impact factor, their journal should be cited. So when it will be cited, if it is a totally new work, if it is something interesting work. So that is why we say that if you want to publish your paper, don't do routine work. If you do routine work, you can still do a study, you can generate the data, you can submit your thesis, you can get your PhD degree, but it is very difficult to publish a paper. If you want to publish really good papers in really high impact factor journals, then it should be totally new. There's something you should be able to impact the readers. Then only you can be able to do that. If the reviewers provide some comments, read the comments and revise it accordingly and then resubmit it. When you are revising your paper, you have to provide point by point response for each and every comment. Okay, do not argue with the reviewer. If you argue with the reviewer, it's most likely your paper will be returned or rejected. So even if you disagree with the reviewer, you may have a disagreement with the reviewer, but put it in a polite way. Okay. We write the manuscript in a very nice way. Revision also should be done in a proper, careful way. Don't do it sloppy. Okay, that is very important. Don't do it sloppy, revision. So there are many points in responding to the reviewers. I will skip those things. Basically, you need to be polite and you should address all the points. You should not leave any comment. If they ask to do some of the experiments, you have to necessarily do the experiment and show. So I have given a lot of points about the pathway of writing. It looks like that you can just push the switch and go into the lift, but it is not like that. Again, they will be waiting. So there are so many challenges are still there for you. Because what I have provided is only an overview. Okay, you should publish, but you should not get to the level of getting an addiction for publication. Because this recently I read this paper published in British Journal of Dermatology, publishing addiction, a behavioral disorder with specific characteristics. So see to that whether you have these symptoms, how to identify whether you have a public addiction for publication. An urgent desire to keep publishing. I want to publish more papers, whether you have the desire or not. Getting emotional kicks from various publication stages. Okay, it is sent for review, it is getting accepted, it is getting reviewed like that. Devoting excessive time to talk about it, publications. Imagining that your articles are important, that your articles alone are important. Deluding yourself that your articles are actually read by many people. And blaming others when your article get rejected, and frequently setting citation and H-index on Google Scholar. This is also an addiction. Okay. And wish to start your own journal because none of these people are ready to publish. Okay, I will start my own journal. So if these symptoms are there, then you are mostly, have some addiction for publications. So it starts all with the thing. Now you can write a good manuscript. Finally, when you write the completing and all the steps, you follow. It's really a tough time you'll have. That's all.
So no words for this particular session because I was laughing a lot, especially on a research scholars induction program where you're supposed to be very serious, and all the laughing was not at others but at myself, right? Did you laugh at others or did you think about yourself and laugh? And this is a very innovative way, I think. So sir has done a lot of research on how to do a research session for research scholars. Because we are all adults, right? We cannot be easily made to smile or laugh or understand research in this light manner. And I think only a very few people can do that. So a very big round of applause for Dr. Sankaranarayanan. So several things he said. Research has proved that humans are all visually wired, right? That is why right from the LKG when we go to school, there are a lot of pictures, we learn through pictures, we learn visually. Most of us are visually intelligent. The kind of pictures he used to show how research manuscripts work, what reviewers do. So these are all some pictures you must take in your research album. Okay? Yesterday, Shanmugam sir was talking about the importance of carrying a big notebook with different sections, right? So in one of the section, you paste all these pictures and keep. So that whenever you feel a little down or you understand that rejection is part of life, you can always look at it, take a laugh and then move on. Apart from that, very insightful and very useful session, I should say. Lot of points that sir covered. I'm really happy that you could give the kind of time and be with us, sir. And I also cannot believe that you are an emeritus professor because, people kind of retire and take up another job. He looks like he's just joined service. The kind of energy he exudes. So I'm really thankful. CFR is grateful to you, and we look forward to having you in many, many sessions for our research scholars. So thanks again on behalf of CFR and all our research scholars. Thank you, sir.
I have at least removed 25 memes from my presentation
Okay.
because you are going to screen it in the web page.
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, it was a
That's
lot
also
more.
there. There's a lot of copyright issues and all that. Yes, I understand. But apart from that, I think the session was very awakening to us. Thank you, sir. A quick Q&A session.
Yeah. Anything you don't understand?
Sir, maximum how many corresponding authors can be there, sir?
There should be only one corresponding author, they say. There should be only corresponding author because the journal wants it easier. They do not want to complicate. The same thing happened last week. We have submitted, it's a conference paper. So during the conference paper, I have given the corresponding author for the student as well as the professor. Okay, both are there. But the moment we submit it to the journal immediately return back the thing, there should be only one corresponding author. You decide whom it is. Because they want to talk to only one person. You may be any number of team. They want to talk only one person. So that is the idea.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody can be a corresponding author, but generally it is the professor who receives fund, who receives the thing, because the student will stay only for a short time, 3 to 4 years. After that he will go. Okay, but the publication will stand for a long time. Okay, even after 15 years, somebody can take the paper and then they can correspond. They cannot search for the student. They may be somewhere else. But the professor will be there in the university. So for that reason only, we are telling the professor should be given the corresponding author. Anybody can be corresponding author. There is no hard and fast rule that who should be the correspondent. But generally the professor who receives the fund from the funding agency, who is responsible for you to supervise the work, to introduce the work, to help you in discussions. So generally they will be the corresponding author.
Sir, any limitation in the any limitation in co-authors, sir? Adding the co-authors?
Any limitation in?
Co-authors.
There is no limitation. That's what I said now. People are moving from authorship to contributorship. So now the trends are changing because many people have started involving so many authors. So for many reasons, materialistic reasons or some other reasons. But that's why they say that, no, what is your contribution? You specify it very clear. That is enough. There is no limit.
So you are saying number of words, which are verbs, I think, all considered as words, or we can omit those words?
Which one? Which words?
Verbs and adjectives and all.
Yeah, words will be there. Yeah, put together everything. Yeah.
Adjectives, verbs
Yes,
and
yes,
all considered as a word.
200 words means put together everything.
Sir, we are publishing papers, so that in thesis writing, it should be in different form, or you say about the copyright permission.
Yeah, definitely. You cannot copy it from the same paper, from your own paper. That's again considered as a self-plagiarism.
Okay. Then we have
That will be listed. When you are using a software to check the plagiarism, it will be listed. Your one paper will be listed. This is copied from this paper, like that.
So we can write it in a different.
Yes, definitely you have to write it. Definitely you have to write it in a different way.
Okay.
Who holds the copyright?
Publisher holds the copyright. Because that's what I'm telling you. When you are publishing, you are transferring the copyright to the publisher. It is no longer your property. You are giving it in writing. I am giving it to you, like that. சொத்து எழுதி கொடுக்குற மாதிரி கொடுத்துட்டீங்க அவ்வளவுதான். Your result also goes to him. He can sell it. Suppose if I am writing a review paper, I want to use your result. He can demand money from me that if you want to use this for illustration, you have to pay me $200. He can demand, and I have to pay the money, but it will not be given to you. because you have given the property rights to him. So right belongs to the publisher. If you want, even if you want to use it for your own thesis, you have to get a copyright permission. There is a procedure is there. Maybe I can send you the presentations. I'll pass it on to her. I'll send a presentation how to get the copyright permission.
Thank you, sir.
There's one more question.
You mentioned that we can publish our original data.
Yeah.
So is it like advisable because it can be changed by others easily? And
And I'm not getting it clearly. Can you?
if we publish our original data or raw data,
Yeah.
there is a possibility that it can be like taken up by others. And
No, it's not like that. The moment you submit a paper, it will be recorded in your name.
Yeah.
So that will be a record. So there is no need to worry about it.
Like,
No,
is it advisable?
yes, no problem.
Somebody uses, they will give the credit to you. They will say it is from your end.
Yes, definitely.